And welcome to our most recent town hall, this one on teacher housing. I'm extremely excited for this town hall, and this topic means a lot to me, and it's one where we made real progress, and we will hear about that progress and how this is now setting the stage for even more innovation in this space from our great leaders that we have on here today. Affordable housing is a challenge in our area. Housing for teachers is really a challenge, probably nationally, but particularly here in the Bay Area. And we know that everyone who lives here knows about the high cost of living. And you also know that teacher starting salaries are not the highest, generally around $70,000, say in San Mateo County. And so a teacher making $70,000 a year would have to spend more than half of their income to rent a two-bedroom apartment in San Mateo County or in northern Santa Clara County in our district. And that financial burden on teacher creates great stress. It leads to teachers creating commuting long distances and sometimes not being able to live in the community where they teach, which is also, I'd say a greater sort of harm to the community, a loss for the community, let's just say. And it also hurts our retention. I was talking to a city council member the other day who was saying that they'll sign a teacher, they'll be all here to, ready to start in August, and then they'll come in June, look for housing, and they'll say, "I'm sorry, this is not going to work for me. Find somebody else." In the next, 45 days before school starts. Anyway, I'm sure we'll hear some of these teachers' stories also from our guests here today. But again, it's very personal for me. Both my parents were teachers. My mom, a public school teacher, my dad, a law professor. Both my wife's parents were both teachers their whole lives up in Southern Oregon. And before the pandemic, I participated in a visit. It was with a group of faith-based communities and nonprofit groups, and they were doing some local organizing and having conversations in the community. And we went to various places to see what issues collectively this group would focus on. And we toured a mobile home park, and we were with the head of a teachers union of one of our local schools. And I remember that head of the teachers union, who taught in the school for many years, said that she tried to get a place in the mobile home park and she couldn't afford it. Couldn't afford that spot in the mobile home park in our area. And that highlighted the issue very starkly for me. In California schools in 21-22, we have 10,000 teacher vacancies. So we're also at this point of a great teacher shortage. And of course, teaching has become even more difficult with the pandemic and post the pandemic, and strains and stresses on teachers. Now, this isn't unique to California. I was in New South Wales, which is the state in Australia that includes Sydney, and they actually have an official department, the Teacher Housing Authority, dedicated solely to helping teachers access housing. So we can learn from what other people are doing as well as I know people will learn from what we're going to talk about here today. I do want to address one thing that came up oftentimes with people in anticipation of this, which is they said, well, why just teachers? What about other staffers, other public officials? And I did want people to know, I just want to highlight a few of the most recent developments where there is projects that include public employees. So Kiku Crossing, for example, that was built in Mid-Penn in San Mateo. It's a 225 unit complex. It includes 57 units for public employees. In Foster City, Pilgrim Drive includes 22 workforce units for Foster City Police and Fire Department employees, as well as city workers and employees from the school districts. I was just at Mid-Penn the other day, and I said, "Oh, there's some great affordable housing being built." And they said, "Yeah, we have 6 slots in that affordable housing being built across the street for Mid-Penn employees." So this is being done in other areas of our community as well. And also, people said, why don't we just pay teachers more? And certainly we're trying to do that. And we can hear about some heroic efforts that have been made in Ravenswood, for example, too, to get their teachers up to the salaries of other teachers in the area. But the reality is, it's just so expensive to live here. We had a quote from Devin Conley, who's the Mountain View Lisbon School District School Board President, and they are building a teacher housing project slated to open soon. And she said that, quote, workforce housing plays a crucial role in helping us attract and retain high quality staff who are the backbone of our excellent education program. Despite our district increasing salaries by 40% over the last 6 years, many teachers still qualify for below market rate housing. When our staff housing community opens in 2025, we hope to turn the corner on teacher retention. Our 144 unit project has been a labor of love for our board and community and serves as a shining example for other districts. And lastly, I want to call attention to another creative solution I heard recently. This is from a concerned citizen, a private citizen, Jason Matlov in Palo Alto. He's trying to get approval from the city for a privately funded venture that would consist of a 5-story apartment building in El Camino with 44 units solely for teachers and staff without public funding. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in this area, and I think a lot of reason for optimism in this topic that is so critical and so fundamental. And again, I'll just also say my kids have gone through our public schools from K to 12. My son's graduating this year, and just had wonderful experience, but it's only because of the great teachers, and we have to be able to keep those teachers in our area. So with that, I'd love to move on to our first guest, Kalima Salhuddin. Kalima, please join us here on the video. She currently serves as the president of the Jefferson Union High School District Board of Trustees. She's been on the board for over a decade, and I see her everywhere at every event, and I know of her just tremendous commitment to the community that is evidenced by that service. And she and her board, and I'm sure she'll give credit to others as well, but I know she was certainly a driving force in getting 122 teacher and staff housing units built in her school district at 705 Saramonte. She's been through the entire process from start to finish. Welcome, Kalima.
Thank you so much for hosting and having me here.
Absolutely. I would love if you could just share some open remarks. I have some questions just to understand some of the specifics, but sure. Tell us a little bit about just how it's been.
Yeah. So I'm a school board member, and I did not become a school board member to become a property developer. That is something that was kind of forced upon me due to our inability to be able to pay our teachers at a higher rate. And I just want to say that right now, 70% of every dollar is spent on our staff. So 70% of every dollar that we have goes to either their what they make or their benefits. So this is not due to lack of effort of us just readjusting our budget to pay them more. We don't have any other funding to pay them more. And, raising funding in the state of California is a complicated process that you've been on the forefront of. And I just want to start out by saying that our board and our district, we understand that this is not the solution. Building workforce housing isn't the solution. It is a step towards a solution. And it keeps us going until we can get to a place where we pay a livable wage for educators. About 6 years ago, we were losing a third of our staff every single year. And you can't run any business where you're losing a third of your employees. And our employees in a board meeting, they rightfully kind of let us have it and told us that we needed to do something to look at and fix retention. And so in order to attract, and the biggest point, retain staff, we needed to do something. And we went into this initially thinking we needed to find more money. But then in polling and doing exit interviews, we could see that housing may be an issue that we needed to pay more attention to. And we were very blessed to have our community college district and have a really good working relationship with our community college district and watch what they did. And so they successfully had a housing program for their employees for a while. And so we were able to connect with them. And when I went into it, with some skepticism. And then when we did our feasibility study to look into housing, 35% of our employees said that they were looking to leave the district not because of our pay, but due to housing and the lack of quality housing. So a lot of our staff actually lived in our district, but they were living with their parents. They're living in 4 to 5 people in two bedrooms, or they had housing that they liked, but they were teaching during the day and driving an Uber or working as a wait staff. And then we're talking about people who have multiple degrees, put full effort in during the day, and then at night are driving an Uber. You know, that's not the type of teacher or any other staff member. They're not going to be able to give their full amount to our students if they've been out driving an Uber all day.
Mhm.
So to look into this, um, we hired a consultant, moved forward, and one of the biggest lessons that we learned from the community college district was if they could go back in time and change one thing, they would build to need instead of what people said they wanted. And so when we polled our staff, uh, only 35% of the people who we polled who answered the survey, so about 56 people said that they were possibly interested in living in workforce housing, and then a lower number than that said that they would absolutely move in. But we knew that 35% of our staff was looking to move due to lack of housing. So we decided to gamble because the community college district had to keep building housing, and every time you wait a year to build something, the price goes up astronomically.
Yeah.
We decided to build to need and to build enough housing to fit a third of the staff that was looking to leave, and that was how we got to 122 units.
Mm.
In order to do so and to fund it so that it hit the 50% below market rate. We wanted to make it truly affordable, and truly affordable for us was 50% below market rate. We did a COP, so did a loan, and we also went out for a bond. So we were the first K-12 to pass a bond that was exclusively to build workforce housing. And
Mhm.
with those two funding sources, we were able to build affordable housing, but affordable housing that is truly a home, that had all the amenities that any other apartment complex would have in the Bay Area. Um, but also some special nods to know that we're building for a unique group of people. So they all go to work at the same time. They all are home at the same time. So we have additional laundry units. We have nooks built into the housing where they can go out and grade papers or have professional development time in the building. Um, you know, the parking, just building everything for a group of people that are all going to be living and coming home around the same time.
Mm.
And we were able to do that because we were able to pass the bond. And right now, a one bedroom in our units, the average rent is 1,468. For a two bedroom, it's 1,895, and for a three bedroom, it's $2,417. So for the first time, I've been on our board for 12 years. Last year was the first time we started our school year fully staffed. That's
Yeah.
never happened. We opened our workforce housing in 2022, and a year later, we're fully staffed. So we know it works, and we also know that's a temporary solution. So right now, we are working on um, with our staff, like, how do you save money? So for the 7 years that you're here, you're saving money. You have the ability to move out, do it after your length of stay is done, and you can uh, buy a house on your own, or because it's workforce, so it's not just our teachers, but also our uh, our custodians and secretaries and assistants and substitute teachers and teachers aides, paraprofessionals, all the people that make up a community, because everyone who's in a building as an educator, they don't make as much money as our teachers. And so how do we get them on affordable housing list now? Usually the wait time is about 5 to 6 years, so they can use that time while they're with us to wait out the list for affordable housing and also save money so they can afford to move, buy new furniture,
Mm.
do whatever they need to do. So um, our employees are thrilled, and so am I.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. And the proof is in the pudding, as you say there, because um, you are fully staffed. So for the first time in a year, so that is amazing. And as you say, 7 years to get people on the list. And by the way, it gives us time to build more affordable housing, which is certainly a priority of mine as chair of the Bay Area Caucus. I just had a bunch of calls on that today, um, and we have a chance with a bond that we're going to put on the ballot just for the Bay Area to raise a significant amount of money for affordable housing and talk to folks. It's no longer streamlining. No, I talked to a big affordable housing developer today. It's no longer streamlining or permitting. That's the obstacle. It's really money to build affordable housing. So hopefully in 7 years, when these people or the first folks are getting ready to move on, there'll actually be more options as well. So um, that's wonderful. And had you answered a lot of questions, so maybe I'll just ask one or two. Um, and I'll mention there was a question from Arlene in there about why can't we have a program such as loan forgiveness or offering scholarships for people who want to be teachers? We do have significant scholarships now, the Golden State Scholarship for people who want to be teachers. So that is a big one. There's also programs like REACH, which is pioneered here in San Mateo County. Um, Hector Camacho is on our county board, also is involved with this program where actually we're getting paraprofessionals, people who are already in schools who don't have teaching degrees, but they're already committed to students and being in schools to give them an expedited way to get their teaching degree while they're making money in their current job. And over time can earn that teaching credential and become teachers in school. So there's various things that we are doing along those lines. But the question was, somebody said sometimes housing is limited to district staff and only for a limited time. Is there, I don't know, priority for people who've been here longer or anything you can talk about there?
So we have a different board that determines the housing rules and who can live there. Two members, and I'm one of the school board members that serve on that board. But we don't want the school board to have to deal with rental issues. So they're two separate entities, and so that group, the EHC, and it's their board. We have a priority list, and there's priority given to different subsets or different groups depending on the issue. So, for example, if we need special education teachers, or if there's we can't find special education teachers, we may make special education a priority. It's a priority for the district to ensure that the makeup of the housing development reflects our district, meaning 60-40 teachers versus classified people who don't have the teaching credential. So if a housing unit opens up and there's two people that meet all the criteria and everything else is equal, if one is a teacher and one's a classified, but we need someone who's a classified member, that person would get priority. Um, how much you make. So our lower income employees will have in priority of someone else who has means or may have a stable place to stay. So there's lots of things that come up in terms of prioritization that get filtered through.
Okay. Is there somebody asked and said that in Mountain View, we don't have anyone from Mountain View here, but that some of the teachers make too much, quote unquote, to qualify for um, affordable housing. Is that an issue?
So that is why we went out for a bond. LA Unified used federal money to build affordable housing, and that disqualified anyone who's a teacher because teachers make too much to qualify for affordable housing that's been built with federal money.
Okay.
There's strict guidelines on that. And so, since we funded it ourselves through the bond and the loan, we control the criteria of what's affordable and what's not as a school district. So, the affordable in relation to what we pay in our salary schedule.
Okay. Good. Very helpful to understand. Well, thank you. I hope you'll stick around for maybe some questions at the end if you can. And I'm going to ask Supervisor Joe Smidian to join me next. And thank you, Supervisor Smidian, for joining us. And really appreciate you being here. You've been a champion for educator workforce housing and for educators in general. And understand that both your parents were teachers as well. So I appreciate that. Maybe you could tell us about this innovative project that is, I understand, under construction right now in that's going on in Palo Alto.
Well, thank you, Senator, and thanks for your interest, and thanks for helping to lift up this topic, because I do think, to pick up where Kalima left off, I would describe teacher housing, educator workforce housing, because the 110 units we're looking at in Palo Alto in the north part of Santa Clara County is for classified staff as well as for teaching staff. I would describe it as one of the tools in the toolbox. And I did have the same questions. Wouldn't we, couldn't we, shouldn't we just, pay teachers more? And my reaction to that was, get back to me when that happens. I've been hearing that for a long time. I am the son of two public school teachers. My folks were divorced, so my mother raised me as a single parent, single mom, till I was 14, and then my father took custody. And I tell people that when I grew up in Palo Alto and my father raised me with my stepmother, he was able to afford a home. He bought a home in Palo Alto on a single school teacher's salary. And, those days have come and gone, but that doesn't mean we can or should give up. I literally was looking out the window in my district office in Palo Alto at a underutilized county site across the street and thought that'd be a great location for a housing project. And that then sort of rolled around the back of my head. And I thought, we could really accomplish two very important things at the same time if we not only had a below market rate housing property there, but we made it available to school teachers and school staff for local school districts, because I was starting to hear rumbles a half dozen years ago about this difficulty of attracting and retaining folks, particularly given the high cost of housing in our area. And I thought, well, great schools make great communities, and great schools depend on great staff. So if we could both create additional affordable housing and help our local school districts, help their schools, help their staff, help their kids, that would be a twofer. And that was the thinking behind my weighing in on this project. I will point out it took, longer than I thought it could or should, because as recently as half a dozen years ago, people were saying, teacher housing, really, is that a thing? And now, of course, I think people realize it's not only a thing, it's a necessary thing, and that we should be doing more of it. But the starting point was coincidentally, and I really mean just coincidentally, there were a series of teacher town halls in school districts up and down the peninsula and in the South Bay, where a group called Support Teacher Housing was hosting sessions for local educators to come and talk about their housing challenges. And as I listened to scores and then hundreds of teachers talking about commuting, literally 2 hours in one direction to the Central Valley, another 2 hours back, and the lack of time they had to be with kids who needed help, the lack of time they had for kids who had a passion that they wanted to explore, the inability to attend after school events like a sporting event or a concert or theater. Even, quietly, some of them said, look, I don't know what I'm supposed to do my lesson plans, because that 4 hours that's shot every day makes it pretty tough. And the part that was referenced, but I think is a little intangible but important, is when teachers and school staff are visitors to the communities where they do their work with kids, they don't have the same ability to fully appreciate, understand, recognize what their kids are going through on a daily basis, what the expectations are, what the pressures are, what the safety risks may be, depending on the community and the situation. So having these folks actually live in the communities where they teach or work has all these benefits. And the thing that makes this project a little different, and then I'll just close with this, is um, it is designed to serve a half dozen different school districts. This is not a school district project. The other projects typically are spearheaded by a district that said, we need to do something to help our folks. What I discovered was that's hard. I mean, so kudos and shout outs to the people who have been making it work. But, most school districts will tell you their elementary schools are in neighborhoods surrounded by single family homes that value the open space at that school site. So even if it's a surplus school site, they're like, whoa, 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 I don't want to lose my open space. And if you say, well, we could get more housing on it, by the way, if it was a multi-story building, they're like, whoa, 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 I don't want a 5-story building right next to my single family neighborhood. So if you can find the right site and somebody else besides a single district can step up, and in this case, it was the county taking the lead at my behest, then I think it's the best of all possible worlds. You can do more, you can serve more districts, you can therefore serve more teachers and staff, you can then benefit more kids. And the key is always 3 things. Do you have a piece of dirt? Do you have the money? Do you have community support? That's it. Those are the 3 things you need. You need the land, you need the money, and you need the community support. And we were able to pull that together in the North County and serve, as they say, half a dozen different school districts. And I'm particularly pleased that we're working across county lines in a way that's interjurisdictional. I see Gina, the superintendent, nodding because Ravenswood is one of those districts. And I think that addresses the concern that I know one of your questioners asked about, does it become kind of company town, company housing? I think that problem is ameliorated if you've got half a dozen different districts. It just means that people feel like they're living in a nice complex like they would anywhere else. I'll let it go at that and see if you have questions, Senator.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And when maybe we get at the end, I'll ask Kalima. Someone did raise a question also about what if someone leaves a district, or so maybe we'll answer all that in the Q&A at the end. And then what is the status of that project? Is it underway yet, or is
it's well under construction? Because it's across the street from my district office, I get to see the construction progress on a pretty regular basis. We expect that the project will be completed in the summer of 2025 next year. That means that people can start talking about leasing in the site as early as spring of next year. And there was passing reference, Senator, to the fact that these projects serve classified staff as well as teaching staff. I will tell you, I was open-minded about this when we approached half a dozen different districts. Every single one of them said, we want our classified staff to be participants. And there were 3 reasons why. The first reason was we're all in this together. And by the way, these are essential people. The second reason was, well, actually, many of our classified staff have even a greater struggle given the pay scale. And the third reason, and I'm just going to say it, people were very clear with me. They said, we don't need the grief from our classified union being upset that the teachers union got this benefit and they didn't. So for reasons of what I'll call, labor peace, plus sort of the reality of the salary structure, plus look, everybody's essential in a school district. Everybody said we need to have both our certificated and classified staff participating.
Good. Well, thank you for tell us how that went, because that's fun to hear. And then lastly, you said, I mean, I think you told me part of your goal was sort of spark more interest. It sounds like there is another project now that's
I was hopeful that we could make this project go. We have it. It's funded. It's under construction. We have participating districts, but it was more than just meeting the needs of a half dozen districts in northern Santa Clara and South San Mateo counties. It was about sort of creating a movement. I don't want to be too grandiose, but as I said, when we started, people said, teacher housing, really, is that a thing? And now people are saying just what I had hoped and thought they might, which is, hey, that's great. Could we get some of that? So I've got other parts of Santa Clara County now that are saying, it's great for that half dozen districts. What about in what we call the West Valley of Santa Clara County? And I said, absolutely. So with my colleague and partner in this effort, Supervisor Otto Lee, he and I are leading an effort. We have identified a site in Cupertino. We have selected a nonprofit development partner. We have talked to probably close to a dozen school districts. And that one will take time, and it will be different than the first one. I would bet you that if you went back to Kalima, or when you talk to any of your other panelists, they'd say we learned something from doing it this way, and we'll probably do it a little differently the next time if there's a next time. So yes, we're on to project number 2, even as project number 1 is under construction.
Good. Well, good. We'll look forward to hearing about that one in the future. And with that, I'd love to welcome Gina Sudaria. Gina's superintendent of Ravenswood. And Gina, I think you were going to have some slides to show us even a little bit more about the need and kind of just quantify that for us a little bit. Great. I can see your slides. That looks good. Do you want to?
Awesome.
Okay. Why don't you walk us through these, and then we can have a little.
Yeah, well, I appreciate being a part of this panel, and Kalima, we've learned a lot from Jefferson's experience, and excited to be a part of Jocelyn Midian's project as well. I think we all agree that it's so important to enhance the affordable housing, as it's truly instrumental to attract and retain high quality educators, and specifically in Ravenswood City School District, where it's been so challenging to retain high quality folks, which is so needed so our kids have excellent day-to-day experiences. We cannot afford having vacant positions in our district. And I think it just also underscores the immense value that we have for not only our educators in the classroom, but as all of us have been speaking already about our classified staff, who probably know our students more closely because they are in the community, and they need to be able to be and stay in the community. Mm-hmm. So as some of you have already shared, like, our rationale to pursue affordable housing is to address local and staff housing crisis. And then Kalima also touched upon this in terms of closing the funding equities in terms of how state allocates funds to schools. And so we did a survey as well across all of our staff members, classified and certificated. And you can see here just 2% of our staff are unhoused. It's challenging because we have a staff member right now who literally has to wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to figure out how to get the public transportation, which means her child also wakes up that early to come to work as a classified staff member. Their child attends one of our schools, and they live in a shelter. To be able to have to do that every single day and come prepared for work is quite challenging. And we want to remedy that. Only a third have said that they have safe and secure affordable housing. And 43% said that they would leave the district because of the cost of housing and the commute. And 85% of the respondents would actually be able to be eligible for affordable housing. And just some of the data here you can see from the results. A third of our staff report having safe, secure, or affordable housing option. And when I actually saw these results pop up, I actually was in disbelief, as they're also probably having some same challenges as our families are having. And then you can see the numbers here in terms of the percentage of respondents who participated in the survey who would qualify for affordable housing and those who would not. So the funding inequities is quite evident in the discrepancies in compensation among the different school districts. This is a reflection of our school district a couple of years ago. So considering the contrasting maximum teacher salaries, for example, Menlo Park a couple of years ago, they stood at like $131,000. While in Palo Alto, it could be as much as 144, I think even more with the most recent COLA, it's much more than that. Prior to considering these leases, our maximum salary 2 years ago was $96,000. And, you know, veteran teachers in Palo Alto could potentially during that time earn 50% more than our staff. And that is really challenging when literally the city next door is paying that much more. And so as much as they would love to stay in Ravenswood, it's just not feasible when you're considering wanting to build a family, wanting to purchase a home. So the substantial gap in compensation has led to significant turnover rate in our district, with over 40% leaving within the first 5 years of their tenure. And that's pretty significant. And so leasing these two sites that we'll go into a little bit further may not entirely, as we saw, all are saying it's a solution to resolve these funding equities, but it promises to make a substantial impact. So if you look here, assuming when these leases are finalized, and we include the philanthropic contributions from our foundation, we were able to come to an agreement and feel empowered to bring our school salaries to the top third in the county. So with this innovative talent initiative where we providing meaningful evaluations that are tied to compensation, there are folks that were really eager to support our Teachers Association, the district's agreement to tie evaluation to compensation and front load the funds for the first few years until we are able to generate our revenue from our affordable housing project. So it's a win-win. Not only are we going to be able to provide affordable housing, we're also able to increase teacher compensation. So it's comparable. So the two projects that we're looking at, some of you are, I'm sure very much everyone is familiar with the flood site housing project. However, we also are looking at moving forward with affordable housing at 2120 Euclid in the office where I am currently, which is our district office. So our project overview for the flood site is that we do have an agreement with Alliance Strategic Development where we would like to build between 80 to 90 affordable rental units. And the priority is for teachers and all school staff. The proposed agreement includes 90-year ground lease, retaining ownership of the land, and Ravenswood will receive about 20% of the gross rent from the units annually over 90 years. The cost of the project is estimated between $50 million and $60 million. And then the project at 2120 Euclid, where our board approved an agreement with USA Properties to build 100% affordable housing development. We would like to prioritize our staff, but we are open also to the greater community who would qualify. This would bring about $400 to $450 400 to 450 affordable housing units. And this agreement was approved last September. And it just lays a vision for a 5-story all affordable housing project that would be district-owned property or built on district-owned property. And again, it's a 99-year ground lease. And there's a 50% profit sharing agreement. And the base rent for the property will start at $1.6 million. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Gina. Thanks for walking us through that, and that you can see there the need in terms of people considering leaving, people are housing insecure, people do not feel good about their housing. That very clearly those stats showed that, those graphs showed that, and I know, and thanks for showing us the two sites, and I know that in the flood site, you're working closely with neighbors on, I think there's a question around the entrances, and this is not to get into the specifics around that, but I know you're working.
No, we're very cognizant. And I think we want to be very mindful of, I think everyone agrees that housing is so important. And when you do bring housing, of course, there's going to be more cars and traffic. And we want to be very mindful of their reasonable concerns around that. And so our board had written a letter and proposed to the Menlo Park City Council, as well as the board supervisors of San Mateo, to please consider how we could consider an alternative entrance. We can't make that unilateral decision, nor do we have the funds to be able to do that. So we would like to continue to collaborate on how that is possible.
Yeah. And I know I spent some time a year ago sort of trying to sort of bring folks together a little bit around that. And certainly neighbors can feel free to reach out to me. You can feel free to reach out to me if there's a role that our office can play in comes in the works. As Klima said, this is a group that comes and goes at the same time. So maybe there's a shuttle that reduces some of that, traffic and other things. So anyway, happy to try to be helpful going forward. I did want to a couple questions that were brought up. Well, you already brought up, so this is letting you raise salaries, so that's what you're doing too. That's a big part of all this, right? To go from that bottom, way below the rest of the Bay Area to the top third, that's transformative for the district, of course, and grateful to the Ravenswood Education Foundation which is all individuals who have stepped up, some who have kids in Ravenswood, some who don't have kids in Ravenswood, but who have stepped up to be helpful, because we all know the education foundations are where a lot of our neighboring districts, and I was on the board of ours for a little bit in Las Amitas, raise money. And so Ravenswood Education Foundation was created, and people have really stepped up, and it's been tremendous. There's a question about charter schools. A lot of charter schools in East Palo Alto. Will teachers in charter schools also be eligible?
Yeah, so we want to make sure we do prioritize our own staff. We are the district authorizer of the local charter schools, and we do want to make sure that we prioritize the schools that the board oversees, and that is our 3 elementary schools and our comprehensive middle school. So our staff would be first in line. There's no district preference within this preference, but I think there was some questions around that. We can't legally move any individual or set of staff ahead or in front of folks. But we are interested in exploring this. We haven't landed on next steps yet. We still want we're still waiting for our projects to actually come into fruition, and we'll probably check in with Joseph Midian and Kalima as well to see how they're all working through who's eligible and the benefits of incorporating more folks to be a part of this.
Great. Let me ask one more question for Supervisor Smitty before we bring up our last panelist, David McLean. Supervisor, one question was asked: what are the two most valuable, I don't know why only two, but two most valuable things local governments can do to encourage development of affordable housing for teachers? Any thoughts on that question that was raised?
Well, I think, I mentioned that every project requires a piece of land, the funding, and community support. And, in terms of what local cities and towns can do, I think start by asking, do you have an underutilized piece of property? Now, it's my experience, having been both a local mayor and a school board president, nobody thinks that they have too much space or too much property or even underutilized. Every space gets used. I'm sure the superintendent would say, as soon as a classroom is vacated, somebody's got some use for it. It's a study room, it's a library, it's a storage space. And the same is true with cities, Senator, as you know, but I have to say, and hats off, the property that we used for this North County site was a county property. It had existing facilities on it, but it was underutilized. And when I approached the public defender's office, who was using that site, and said, couldn't we find other space for you and make that 1.5 acres available for an affordable housing, below market rate housing project, they were very supportive. So in the city context, again, same question is there a space that is being underused in some way? I mean, the superintendent, Gina, said, we're looking at our own district office buildings. Well, those district office buildings in a lot of our communities were built back in the day when land use patterns were very different, and we wouldn't say they were at their highest and best use today. That's no disrespect to the folks who are in those buildings, I got to say. So again, to the cities, I would say, do you have a site that you could contribute? And contribute doesn't mean give away. You heard 99-year lease when we were listening to Gina. So a local city could say, we know that we're strong because we have great schools. How about we help keep great schools by making a corporation yard that's underutilized available on a 99-year lease for below market rate housing for our local staff? and maybe they mix it up and it's some city staff with some school staff. Fine, fair enough. But look around for surplus property. And then even if folks don't have money to contribute, I think it was Kalima who mentioned that, every year that passes, it gets exponentially greater in cost. So if they can streamline the permitting process, that's a big deal. I am constantly amazed and frustrated by just how long the development process takes here in California. There are some good reasons for that, but some of it's just a lack of urgency. So if local jurisdictions can say, we'll make this a priority and we'll go, and we'll do it quickly, that would be a help as well.
Yeah. Time is money, certainly in construction, for sure. Good. Well, thank you. And I know you may be around for your questions, and you have to pop up probably right at 5:30, but let's move on. But thank you. So if we lose you, we just want to thank you, Supervisor Smitty, for being here with us, and for the work that you are doing. I'd like to move on now to David McLean, and then we'll have everyone come up and just a few last questions. David, thank you. David is the Interim Executive Director of the Community and Government Relations for the San Mateo Community College District, which I'm a big fan of, done a lot of work with. Prior to taking this role, he worked for the College of San Mateo in a variety of capacities for 21 years, and I'm sure many of you have been up to the beautiful campus there in the College of San Mateo. Currently, the Community College District has 134 units of teacher housing spread across the 3 campuses. And David's unique perspective, having lived in 2 of these 3 properties prior to becoming an administrator. So David, please give us some opening remarks, and then I'll have some questions for you.
Sure. Thank you, Senator Becker, and thank you for all of your support with our colleges in our district. We always appreciate that. And I'm thrilled to participate in this town hall to discuss such an important topic. As Senator Becker mentioned, we have 3 employee housing locations on each of our campuses. The district was the first, we were the first district in the state to provide employee housing on one of our community college campuses. We have 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and depending on the property, rents range from about $1,200 to $2,500 per unit. And we aim to maintain about a 45 to 55% ratio of units allocated to faculty and staff, respectively. I'm just going to share a little bit more about kind of the current state of our housing, and then I'll kind of change hats and talk a little bit about my personal experience. Originally, the goal of our employees' housing was twofold. First, it was to provide employees affordable housing that would allow them to save money for a down payment to purchase a home in the area. Second, it was also a recruitment tool to expand our hiring pools. Unfortunately, as local housing prices have continued to escalate, though, the ability to save for a down payment has become more challenging for our residents, and the demand from our current employees has grown dramatically. Our wait list currently has over 250 employees on it. Wow. So we no longer hold open units for recruitment. And because of these developments, our housing board has been in discussion about updating the original goals. So that's a quick overview of the housing and my role as the district's housing administrator. But now I'll switch hats and share some of my personal experience as a former resident of 2 of the properties in the early stages of my career at College of San Mateo. When College Vista at CSM opened around 2005, I was among the first residents to move in. It was the first rental I could afford without a roommate, and I was thrilled. As time progressed, I developed a relationship with, and married my wife. Our small wedding reception was held at the clubhouse at the property. A few years later, we welcomed our first child together, which coincided with the grand opening of the housing at Kenyatta College. That gave us an opportunity to move into a 2-bedroom unit for just a few $100s more than we had been paying. We happily took that opportunity, and living at Kenyatta Vista gave us more space for our growing family, but it also allowed us to continue saving and investing the money that we are saving versus paying kind of the current market rates. With a growing appreciation for what the district had done for us and this opportunity, I used those savings to reciprocate by doing everything I could possible to become a better public servant, which included going back to school to finish my bachelor's degree, and ultimately purchasing a home through San Mateo's first-time homebuyer program in Bay Meadows. So knowing that that was our moment we had spent 9 years preparing for, we jumped at the opportunity to purchase. Within a year, we were a proud homeowner of a new 3-bedroom townhome just 8 minutes away from the college. After moving in, we had our second child. And in the spirit of continuous professional improvement, I went back to school during my master's degree, which helped propel me through 2 promotions into the role I am at now. The district housing, I say all this because the district housing didn't just give me an affordable place to live. It gave me an overflowing well of opportunity, a foundation to build a better life, a family, immensely rewarding career, and roots in the community. Words cannot express how grateful I was for all of this. So I do my best to show it through my actions. I arrive to work every day with a determined sense of purpose and a passion for serving our students, my colleagues, the district, and our community. Collectively, I hope we can all find ways to provide similar opportunities to many more of our teachers and public servants who make up the fabric of our community, but just cannot afford to live here.
Thank you. That is a inspiring, heartwarming success story. Just every step of the way with what we're trying to do with this town hall and with these programs. So thank you. And I'll ask you this first, and maybe ask Kalima later too. But since you guys have the longest sort of tenure with this program, what happens if an employee separates from the district? Is they're allowed to stay there for a transition time, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there's 2 paths basically. So if an employee voluntarily leaves or is dismissed for cause, we give them 2 months to vacate the unit. If a resident is laid off or does not, or a faculty member, adjunct faculty does not achieve tenure, they would be allowed to stay for 6 months. So we do give folks transition time during that challenging period.
Got it. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people had that question. I had that question as well. So that is good to hear. And you mentioned the county's first-time homebuyer program, which is great. You're going to take advantage of that. We need to hopefully do more of that. And the state has opened up a second round of dollars for first-time home buyers, and so I know that's a big priority. And I recall hearing that sort of Stanford used to do this, where they'd put up maybe half a down payment and then take half of the upside or something like that. Did the college district do programs for buyers at one point as well, and yeah, for home buyers?
We did. So for a long time we had a second loan program that would give folks up to $150,000 towards their down payment. It had a appreciation sharing component of it, so there's no interest for the first 5 years. We have had many employees take advantage of it, pay it off within the 5 years, and really enjoy that no interest portion. We've also had some employees who have fallen into the part with the shared appreciation that's become a little challenging for them and a little onerous. And so we've currently put the program on hold, and we're going to review it and just make sure that it's achieving the purposes that we want to achieve and that it's not creating additional burdens for folks. We also have our foundation has an account. We had a former real estate professor here named Bob Bruss, who started a fund with our foundation with the express purpose of helping employees buy homes. And so employees are entitled to basically $1,000 grant to help them with closing costs when they do purchase a home.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, everything's helpful when you're trying to purchase a home in our area. So that is wonderful. And I imagine, have you had a lot of other districts across the state or even across the country come and look at the housing and ask you about it? And
we have, and I've been in this role since July of last year, but I know my predecessors, Mitch Bailey and Barbara Christensen, who was really the foundation on all this work. She really kind of laid the groundwork, and she was instrumental in just sharing her vision and the lessons learned with other districts and folks looking at building affordable housing.
Yeah, great. Well, I know that these are crown jewels in our area for sure, and I know that I'm not yet, but my wife and my son are members of the gym at Kenyatta. They tell me it's really something. So I'm looking forward to checking out when I have some time to actually exercise. But the 250 people on the wait list, that's really telling as well. And so you said that you used to use it. It was partly a recruitment tool, but just given the demand, you feel like you just can't do that now. You have to give it to people who are already here, right?
Right, and it also affects the occupancy term. So when the program first opened, it was 5 years. Then the wait list, there wasn't really a wait list, so we extended it to 7 years. And during the heights of the Great Recession, we actually went to 9 years because there was zero wait list. As that wait list has grown, we're back to 7 years, and our board's currently having discussions about possibly shortening it back to 5, just so that we're fair to everyone and we can get through that wait list a little bit quicker.
Yeah, yeah, good. Well, I'm going to invite everyone back for a moment if we can get everyone on screen, and we'll just do a few remaining questions. And but if folks, have to drop off, we certainly understand. We usually do these for an hour. I'm going to take a quick Zoom picture. It's always fun. It reminds me of the pandemic days, Zoom pictures. But fun. We have a few questions I wanted to try to get to, if folks are able to stay on. There was a question around it, and this kind of came in earlier too, where one of the cities in our district was building something 100% affordable, and folks went to city council meetings and said, "Hey, let's give priority to teachers," and the city council said that was illegal. I don't know if you have any sense. Is that, again, it sounds like sometimes who funds it is partly an issue, but maybe if it's a general, if this was just a general affordable housing project in the city, it sounds like cities may not be allowed to give preferences. And anybody have any comments on that? Anyone with knowledge of that particularly?
I think it just reiterates how, Kalima, you mentioned this, that as educators, we are not trained around commercial real estate. And I've been very fortunate to have a very strategic chief business officer as well, but I personally do not recall those details.
Yeah, so I know that because now that our workforce housing is done, we are a school district that has enough excess land that we are actually looking on ways to what to do with it. And so at that same site that we built the workforce housing, we had still like 10 acres of extra land. And we were just approved to build 1,200 units of housing on that. And 20% of it will be affordable. And there is preference laws. So we were looking to add preference for Daly City residents, and even that is going to be tricky for us. So I know that there is rules around preference, but I'm not sure about the specifics of that question.
Yeah, Senator Smith, Supervisor Smithian, you were Senator Smith. So you were in my role previously. So
Joe is good. That's all good. It's nice to be among friends. Senator, I would just first of all, I'm about to ask Kalima if we can motor on up the highway and take advantage of some of that land she's got. But but I did want to say one of the questions that you asked, and one that I know came in advance, sort of addressed this issue of what's affordable and what the affordability criteria are. I was very focused in pursuing the project that we've done here in Santa Clara County on what I call the missing middle. I think you referenced the salaries of teachers, and again, as the son of two public school teachers, we would like to think we pay teachers what is a decent middle class salary. You're not going to get rich, but but in our housing market, a decent middle class salary just isn't going to cut it, even for rental property. So we said that that up to 120% of the median income adjusted for household size isn't going to get it done for some of our teachers. And so we said, how can we get up to 140%, which means we use the phrase below market rate instead of affordable, which some people use colloquially, but sometimes means no more than 120% of median income if you want to qualify for a project. And it is that missing middle who are our school teachers in many cases. And the way we were able to make that work was we got a $25 million grant from the folks at then Facebook, now Meta, and that gave us a little more flexibility on funding. So having a funding source, as well as putting the land in, means that you can be a little more flexible than some of these income streams that come from government programs that are limited to no more than 120% of median income adjusted for household size.
Good, thank you. That's very helpful, and gets into the technicalities of this. Keith writes, again, he's very grateful for this. He's a former high school administrator outside our district. He's curious how the program is administrated. And we kind of addressed that if a teacher decides to leave, will they lose their right? And Clem, is it the same in yours? Do they have a transition period?
Yes, it is the same, that they do have a transition. And I just want to reiterate that I understand that every solution has flaws.
Yeah.
Every solution, there's no perfect solution. And that this teacher housing or workforce housing, they do have to work for us to live in the housing. And it's in the title, it's workforce housing. And so being a landlord is a challenge for any landlord that will talk to you. It is challenging being a landlord at times. And that I do have to separate my school board hat, which is to serve every student in the way that they need to be served. And the landlord hat is very different. There are laws and there are rules around occupancy. And because we passed a bond that said it would be provided, the money is provided exclusively for the use of workforce housing, meaning you have to work here. If you don't work here, we have to transition those folks out. Fortunately for us, that is not a high number. The vast majority of, it's 122 units, but there's many, many more because there's multiple staff members that live in certain units. There's many more employees that are actually living in the units.
Yeah.
And they love that they are able to focus on being staff members in our schools and not have to worry about paying for rent, similar to David's story, that they can live instead of survive. And that's the type of workforce we want.
Yeah.
Who are working directly with the future of our society.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want a teacher or a custodian or our cafeteria workers worrying about paying bills when they're on the job, because they need all of their brain power to work for our students and to give every part of them to their students, which they willingly do every day. And this was, you know, nothing made this more relevant than COVID, right?
Yeah.
And a huge issue in my school district was we're having staff that lived in housing with multiple people and then worrying about bringing it back home if they were working in a school district or in a school. So now that they have secure housing that they live in on their own because they're adults, it hits so many things. It's health issues, it's mental health issues, it's pride, to be able to have pride in where they live. All of these things make them better educators. And so while I know it's not perfect, it is working for us in so many different ways. Another thing that didn't show up is that a lot of our special education teachers are from the Philippines. And they came here without their families because they didn't have a place for their families to live. And now that they have secure housing, they were able to come not just with their husbands or their spouses, but some of them had small children who they hadn't seen in years. So this has solved so many different issues that I didn't even know were problems.
Yeah. Well, I think you think about it and think about, you know, my own son who played football at our high school, and you know, having teachers who can come to the games, right? So sometimes you have teachers who come to the games. Well, you're much more likely to come to a 7 p.m. Friday night game if you live in the neighborhood, right? Rather than if you drive home for an hour, hour and a half, and then get right back and try to drive back for an hour and a half. I mean, and I think about being, and also you're more likely, obviously, you're much more likely to have your kids go to school in that school district, and you know that just reinforces everybody's commitment to it. So it just makes so much sense from all those standpoints, and so important. But we did get a question about early childhood educators, and we are working. I do have a bill. The winner of my ought to be a law contest this year, which is something that the supervisor submitting when he was a senator helped start. It ought to be a law contest, and so we actually are prioritizing early childhood educators to have their own kids in to get subsidized preschool, and which some of them don't qualify for. And so that is something we're doing. In terms of housing, I think that would have to be something that would have to be, we'd have to figure out one of these other solutions for to get early childhood educators access to some housing as well. I did hear about it. I think it was when I was at All Five. There were a few teachers that did. I don't know how it worked out, but there was some early ed teachers that had some housing nearby, and again, made all the difference in their lives. There's a question about one person wrote in as a current teacher, and can they get a break because they're paying $2,600 a month for a single room. And I know there are a lot of cities that were looking into this idea of, even just for, say, an ADU in someone's backyard, could they give discounted rent to teachers and maybe in return for some kind of property tax break or something? And I don't know why it's been so difficult to sort that out. I'll have to check in again. But I know we've certainly looked at that. I know Atherton's been looking at that. Los Altos Hills has been looking at that. People who do want to rent their, oftentimes these very nice ADUs to teachers. Again, not just going to work for every person, but as an option at below market rent, and trying to see if we can do that. So I'm going to try to look into that again as well. Cindy writes, can someone explain where money for teachers' salaries come from? I thought it was from property taxes. And the answer to this is it's complicated, like all of our education. So we have two types of schools. There are community funded schools where the local property tax is enough to fund the school, and the school's actually district is able to keep that excess too, which in some of our very wealthy school districts is quite considerable. And every other school then gets, instead of that, the money goes to the state, and the state redistributes it at an equal level. And there is priority through LCFF. There's an article today I was reading tracing the history of this that comes from Michael Kirst at Stanford and other people, to give more money to schools with more low-income kids. The problem is the base level funding is generally the same, whether you're in the Bay Area or whether you are in Fresno or in up north and much less expensive parts of our state. So there's not a regional cost adjustment for LCFF, that's what's called the local control funding formula. Something that some of us have, and I've certainly been fighting for. And even if you had a regional cost adjustment, it would result in more funding, significantly more funding for our schools here, because sometimes we have a bunch of schools that are what they call flipper districts, meaning that sometimes they're community, LCFF schools, and then property tax is enough that they become a community funded school, but then they have to go back, and that process itself is very disruptive. And one idea I'm working on is to ask the board of supervisors to have a fund just to cover that flipper district time, because it's very disruptive. It can be disruptive for districts. So Cindy, that's a long explanation. Check out Ed 100. Ed 100 spun out of a Full Circle Fund, which is a nonprofit that I started. Ed 100 is a nonprofit that focuses on educating parents and others about all issues education in California. So you can check out ed100.org, and they have lots of little lessons on what is our complicated education structure here. This is, why do affordable units not have windows and doors in the bedrooms? I don't, that's a surprising thing. I think that we can probably say that they all, Kalima, do all of yours have windows and doors? Yes. Oh, it says in the bedrooms. I don't know. I can't speak to all the layouts, but the ones I've seen have been very, very nice units. This says, also strikes me, Keith, that having many educators live in the same location provides opportunity for teacher support, such as professional development, social adjustment to the Bay Area, financial education. Is there anything like this in place at these locations? And Kalima, I think you said that this is in place. Anything else you want to add on that?
Yes, no, it's just that we have built-in areas on each floor where teachers can work either alone or collaborate together, and we know that they do that. Um, and I think David can speak to this too, the myth that the staff doesn't want to live together or it's like a dorm. It's been the exact opposite.
Yeah.
There's parties. I mean, I see the pictures on social media. They appreciate living together. I think because there's no one else that understands exactly what they go through every day. Now they have a community they live with that understand that.
Well, I would say I live in a hotel here, and part of the reason I live in a hotel, there's about 8 to 10 other members who live in the hotel, and so it's nice to at the end of a long day here to be able to debrief with people who know what you're going through and talk through what happened over the day, and I really personally enjoy that very much. So I could see how that. And I lived in a group house. Actually, the group house I lived in D.C. when I was working on Capitol Hill. And did a bunch of things. But eventually, I was a press secretary on Capitol Hill. But we were the group house after I moved out. It was profiled in the Washington Post as sort of the prototypical DC group house. And anyway, fond memories from that time as well. Well, listen, I really appreciate all of you. I know we had a lot of people listen live. We had hundreds of people sign up, and everyone who signs up and will get a recording of this, even if they couldn't make this particular time. But I really want to thank all of you. Thank you, Kalima. Thank you, Gina. Thank you, David. David, you know any last words? I feel like I didn't. On the closing out there. I'll give you I'll give you the last word if there's any other thoughts you have.
Sure, I'll make one last point. And Kalima, really, I'm glad that she touched on all the other factors, physiological and health-wise, that come with this. But the thing I hear the most when an employee that I work with or a colleague gets into housing, the first thing that I hear regularly them say is, I feel like I can breathe. For the next 5 years or 7 years, I feel like I can plan, I have stability, because as we all know, it's not just the cost, it's the constant fear of, is my rent going to go up next year? Is the landlord going to sell the house and I'm going to be forced to move? And all that energy that goes into that struggle just to stay afloat. It feels great when people say, moving into this housing, that I can breathe. I can take a little break from the rat race and I can just put down the roots.
That's wonderful. Actually, Gina, I'll give you a final word too. And it looks like you maybe had your hand up for one of the other questions that was raised on early childhood too, or.
Oh, no, I just wanted to emphasize the need for that, as well as we're also looking into how to expand early childhood. And, it is challenging for the teaching staff there, right, as well. But
Yeah.
I do want to just reiterate what everyone else has said, and how important it is that the staff members in our district stay in the community, as it helps us build a stronger community. And I think more empathy, especially in our district, for our children and our community as they are amongst everyone else. And I think that's really important, to have an inclusive perspective as they're working and living in the community.
Excellent. Just a couple more comments. Keith wrote, I passed the Saramonte property daily basis. Wish he had the opportunity when he was a young teacher many years ago. I saw a few other things. Anyway, lots of questions. I apologize we couldn't get to everyone. I'm just grateful to all of you. I'm really excited that there's a momentum and that, this isn't theoretical, that we've got proof points, right? That's what we talk about in Silicon Valley all the time. We talk about trying things, and then iterating, right? So we try things, see how they work. And now we've got some great models, and now we can hopefully do a lot more. So thank you all for being the trailblazers. I appreciate all your work and being here today.
Thank you, Senator.
Right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.